What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. So E3 is officially underway with some pretty big presentations already happening, like Microsoft that went over pretty well online, and then Square Enix that kind of disappointed online. We'll be going over Square's presentation though here today. Also, we're going to be talking about an odd advertisement that went out from GameStop that got everyone talking once again about the Switch Pro because it appears to reference a new Nintendo Switch system. And we're also gonna be talking about Game Builder Garage, as that did release on Friday. A lot of people got their hands on it over the weekend, and they've already started to make some pretty cool things. Guys, if you enjoy these videos, make sure that like button helps out a ton. And if you're new here to the Spawn Wave channel, make sure you subscribe down below. And we're gonna start today with that Nintendo Switch system update 12.03. That's the system update that went up, got pulled down, and then went back up after seemingly Nintendo was able to fix whatever problems they had with it. Well, it looks like people are still running into different error codes. We can head over here to Nintendo Life, where they say Switch users report problem with error 2123-1502 following system update issues. And that is after Nintendo still put the update back up. People are just still struggling with things like downloading games from the eShop or even just updating. And there was also talk originally with this update 12.03, when people would try to just set up an SD card for the first time, they would get an error code kicked back to them. So now people are basically just reporting to Nintendo through customer service and bug reports the exact error code that they're getting, as I'm sure Nintendo is collecting data around this and trying to figure out what the problem is. So if you are getting error codes right now on 12.03 with your Switch when you're updating a game or downloading something in eShop, I would immediately go with that error code and let Nintendo know what you are running into so they can hopefully work to fix this with a 12.04 update that releases here pretty soon. Also, we did get that next generation patch for Jedi Fallen Order. That was on Friday. You can just go ahead and download it now if you already own the game. Otherwise, you can buy the game, of course, and you'll get the patch immediately for your Series X, Series S, or PS5. You can see some of the benefits here with this upgraded version, which includes high-resolution textures and assets, 4K 30 FPS graphics mode on PS5, Series X, 1440p 60 FPS performance mode on the PS5 and the Series X, and then look, we even have a 60 FPS 1080p mode on the Xbox Series S, and significantly faster loading times with those different SSDs. But the thing that really caught me off guard, because remember, this is EA, is that they figured out a way to get you that upgrade if you went from, say, your PS4 with a disc version of Jedi Fallen Order up to the all-digital PS5 version. They have a form you can fill out online, and as long as you can provide proof of purchase that you bought a disc-based version of Jedi Fallen Order, you will get the game and the upgrade for your all-digital system, whether it's the Series S or the PS5 all-digital. I don't really know how you provide proof of purchase, whether it's, I guess, just a receipt that you still have, or maybe an order form, I guess, that you got, or like a digital receipt from Best Buy or something there. But it's odd, like I said, that it's EA, because obviously EA gets beaten down quite a bit when it comes to their loot boxes and other things they do. And I know people wanted to point to Respawn for this one, but EA is distributing the game. They're the publisher. They own Respawn. So I know people like to beat down EA, but sometimes you got to give them credit when they come up with things like this. Oh, and it turns out there was another thing that Microsoft had to announce after their presentation ended yesterday with the new Arcane IP. They had another piece of hardware to announce. Yeah, take a look at this. That's right. They are going to be selling this holiday the Xbox Series X mini fridge. Now, this is obviously a play on the meme around the Series X looking like a refrigerator, as that was photoshopped and passed all over Twitter, and we got a good laugh out of it. Yeah, it was funny. Microsoft just put out a box, basically, and hey, yeah, that could be a fridge. And then they played on that with the refrigerators they sent out to different people online who made videos around it, and now I guess it was popular enough online, I think they even ran a poll over this whole thing, that they are going to actually sell these. So I guess we'll look for a release date and pricing around it, but yes, you too can own an Xbox Series X refrigerator. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start right away with this GameStop advertisement for this the Switch Pro. Now, there was so much talk, obviously, ahead of E3 that the Switch Pro announcement was imminent, and that was from Bloomberg, right? And then Eurogamer chimed in and kind of backed that up, and then other people talked about it. But here we are at E3, and there's still no Switch Pro. I mean, I guess the Nintendo Direct's tomorrow, so we'll see there. But Nintendo did say they're mostly talking about just all software, right? So who knows? Maybe later on this year or something, we'll see this this legendary, this fabled Nintendo Switch Pro. But the advertisement that GameStop put out did say something odd around the Switch, specifically, and I'm not even kidding, with capitalization. That's what's throwing people off right now. Let's take a look at the ad here, where we can see $50 extra credit. This was talking about really telling you the values around your systems if you trade it in towards other systems. So we do know they are getting Xbox Series systems in stock. We had talked about that. So make sure you keep an eye on that one this week if you are looking to pick up a Series X or a Series S. Your local GameStop most likely will have some in stock. So go ahead and I guess call in and see what the deal is there and how many they may have. But you can see it says when you trade select systems toward purchase of a new Nintendo Switch, Switch Lite, or Xbox Series X and S. That's right, new Nintendo Switch. Now, if you look to the right, we do have values of all the different systems you can trade in, and they did list the Nintendo Switch V1, V2. It's not called the new Nintendo Switch there. But you could also make the case that it's new Nintendo Switch, new Switch Lite, or new Xbox Series XS system. It's a very odd bit of wording here with GameStop, but I do come back to the whole thing of, would GameStop really be leaking the new Nintendo Switch right now? And would they even be able to sell it now? No, that would be towards probably a pre-order of it. So if this said trade in towards like a Switch Lite, an Xbox Series XS, a Nintendo Switch, and then the pre-order of a new Nintendo Switch, I'd say, wow, they might have accidentally leaked that out. I think right now, because of how much talk there has been around the Switch Pro and it being imminent, I think people are really looking into this stuff like more than they should. Like that could legitimately just be a typo and it's like they capitalized the N by accident. It's just supposed to say new Switch Lite, right? New Xbox Series X, not a used one, but a new one, because obviously GameStop is going to try to capitalize on the restock of the Series X and the S by trying to build up more used inventory, and that's why they are giving more value out for their trade-ins. And they're like, oh yeah, we got the bluish or the blue-purple Switch Lite in, we got the Series X, the Series S, and we got Switch systems in, because remember, the Switch itself is still harder to find right now in stores. So that getting a restock, and with the Zelda poster, yeah, you could see some people come in and trade in some of their systems to get that, especially if you have, let's say, the older Switch and maybe you're looking to move up to the V2. I mean, the trade-in value here is actually not terrible, and you get a Zelda poster. So while I know there was a lot of excitement around the Switch Pro and the new Nintendo Switch, I wouldn't look too much into this whole thing with GameStop. We'll just kind of keep an eye out and see if Nintendo is really ready to make an announcement around this device at their E3, which I'm going to say probably not. If anything, let's say it is going into production at the beginning of July. Look around there for an announcement. Next up, let's talk about Square Enix at E3. They had an interesting presentation is what we're going to say. It didn't get the best reception online, and as we start to go through the list of things they showed here, you're probably going to understand why that is. Let's start right away though with the big showing, which was Guardians of the Galaxy. That's right, we're getting a single player-focused Guardians of the Galaxy game. It's coming out October 26, 2021, PS5, PS4, Xbox Series X, S, Xbox One, and PC. It is very important to note that this will not be going the same route as the Marvel's Avengers game, and I think that's what people were kind of getting the feeling of when they started to see this as, oh, here we go again, live service Guardians of the Galaxy. No, in fact, they are going full single player to the point where there's no co-op, and you just play as Star-Lord as you go through this original universe and original story for Guardians of the Galaxy. So you know what? I liked at least what I was seeing here, but I'm gonna have to check it out for myself when it releases in October. It looks to be kind of an action RPG adventure style game. Then we had Final Fantasy Pixel Remaster, and whew, this one hurt. All right, so it's the first 6 Final Fantasy games. Looks like they, did the basics around it, up-resing, cleaned everything up, so it looked pretty solid while still retaining the original visual style. It's for PC and mobile. That's right. It's not coming to any consoles. Somehow, these are missing the Switch, at least for now. Hey, you know what? The Nintendo Direct tomorrow, maybe it's a surprise for that one. We can always hold out hope. I don't know what Square is doing here. Like, why is this just tied to mobile? Sure, PC, that's great. It's baffling because they already have a lot of these Final Fantasy games on mobile. They even renamed them recently, I guess, to make room for these. very, very strange stuff there. Legend of Mana, that's coming out June 24th, Steam, PS4, and Switch. That was an update. We already knew about that one. Then they have Marvel's Avengers Black Panther War for Wakanda expansion for the Avengers, which that's just 2021 still. Where is Spider-Man? Is anyone like wondering what happened to Spider-Man for Marvel's Avengers? It really does look like Spider-Man is going to be something coming out in 2022, which is not the impression it gave off when they first announced it as a PlayStation exclusive, well before the Avengers came out. So that's an interesting situation there. Hitman Sniper: The Shadows, that's another mobile game, 2021. Nier Reincarnation, that's coming to iOS and Android. Final Fantasy Brave Exvius, that's celebrating its 5th anniversary on mobile devices, June 17th. Then we have Final Fantasy VII: The First Soldier, 2021. For iOS and Android. You see what I'm kind of getting at here? It was a lot of mobile games, which a lot of people are not tuning in necessarily to see just all of these iOS and Android games, especially if they like see one with, say, Final Fantasy Pixel Remaster with all of those really good original Final Fantasy games just going to mobile. It's very odd that that's what most of their presentation here took up. And then we had Babylon's Fall, which I'm not sure what happened to this game because it looks really rough. Like, they were showing it and the visuals didn't look great. This is from Platinum Games, and all of a sudden it's a live service game now. It's coming out on the PS5, PS4, and Steam, and they didn't really talk much more about release date or any of that beyond just adding the PS5 logo to the mix. That was probably the biggest disappointment from this entire presentation, is when they started showing off Babylon's Fall. So I guess we'll see more about that down the road. Life is Strange Remastered Collection coming September 30th, PS4, Xbox One, Steam, and Stadia. Life is Strange True Colors is September 10th, PS5, PS4, Xbox Series X, S, Xbox One, PC, and Stadia. And then the big reveal kind of at the end was Stranger of Paradise Final Fantasy Origin. This was kind of the Souls-like action Final Fantasy game that had leaked out ahead of time. This is 2022, coming to PS4, PS5, Xbox One, Series X, S, PC, and there is a demo out now specifically on the PlayStation 5, and that will be running through June 24th, but it's having some issues. In fact, people are downloading it, going to play it, and it's kicking back an error saying that it is corrupted. So hopefully they're able to get that worked out, because there's apparently a time limit through June 24th. I've actually set it up to download now, and I'll be checking this one out throughout the day today. But overall, looking back at this presentation, it was certainly one of Square's weaker presentations. Guardians of the Galaxy in the beginning was good when I started to hear more about it, that it was going to be full single player, not try to go the same route as the Avengers. And then obviously Final Fantasy Origin at the end, minus them saying chaos about 8 or 9 times in a 2.5-minute trailer. Looks interesting enough, but I'm gonna have to play it with this demo once it starts actually working. Otherwise though, half the show was like mobile games, and the fact that some games that people probably want, like the Final Fantasy Pixel remasters, are just stuck on mobile for now rather than at least go to, say, the Switch. Odd decisions by Square, but we'll see what happens with some of these titles as we move forward. You never know. Maybe some of those older Final Fantasy games are slated for Nintendo's Direct tomorrow. We can always hope. Next up, let's talk about Game Builder Garage. This released on Friday, and people have already started to work on different games over the weekend. And we had talked to MVG about this a little bit on the podcast, and he's tried it a bit, and he really seems to like kind of the idea that Nintendo set up here to build these different games out and visualize the whole building process much, much better. So much so now that people are doing things like building like kind of small versions of Doom Eternal, for example, in Game Builder Garage. Or what about Mario Kart? Check this out here. This was posted up by Zelda Boy. You can even see the game ID there where you can try it out with controls for A as accelerate, ZR for drifting, L and R for toggling eraser. And you can see some of the video here. And considering this was already created basically at the time of the game releasing, so I mean, not more than a day or two in, and they have like this rough version of Mario Kart is really cool. Now, they say it doesn't control the same as Mario Kart, and yeah, you can kind of tell, right, when they're kind of floating around almost as they're trying to drive, but it still looks really, really cool. And they did show off you being able to toggle between all 8 characters with L and R. Pretty cool there too. I'm really curious if people are coming up with these kind of ideas now. I mean, how far are they really going to take this thing? Now, MVG did mention that there are some limitations when it comes to 3D models, so you are kind of tied to what's in the game now, but maybe Nintendo supports this going forward for a while and they continue to add newer things into this. Maybe they slowly allow you to import your own different graphics or things into the game. That's probably the part that Nintendo is concerned about, where it can, I'm sure, get kind of dicey based on what people do with Nintendo models and then graphics and stuff that they upload. Nintendo's pretty careful with that. But so far from the tools that they have provided with Game Builder Garage, it's gonna be pretty fun to see what people come up with. So much so that I'm gonna be getting the game, not necessarily to build stuff, but just to have it on hand for when people come up with some really cool things like these, and I can use that kind of that game ID and check out what they made. So exciting stuff here in the first weekend of Game Builder Garage, seeing even like Mario Kart having been made. We'll see what else the people come up with as we go through the rest of the year. And in our last bit of news, let's talk about that Kingdom Come Deliverance port that has been announced for the Switch. That was the other day. And it turns out when we had originally seen it posted up on Nintendo Japan website, this was like the first week of January. So it was like right at the end of 2020 that it was listed. And then someone did notice it. It was slated for like February 2021. It turns out, at least according to Warhorse PR, that was actually a mistake. But the overall feedback that they had received about wanting this port to happen made them go ahead with it. Take a look at this. This is a quotation from the Warhorse PR. Kingdom Come Deliverance for Nintendo Switch was born out of a happy mistake. At the end of 2020, the Kingdom Come Deliverance Royal Edition was announced for the PlayStation 4 Japan due to a clerical error. The game was also listed for the Nintendo Switch, which at that time was not in the plans. The mistake was fixed right away, but the information spread. However, the overwhelming feedback was eye-opening and an integral part in decision-making later. Saber Interactive, also a legacy studio of Co-Media, has proven on multiple occasions that they are the right partners for this endeavor to make the unthinkable thinkable, and were tasked with bringing Kingdom Come Deliverance to the Nintendo Switch. They go on further to say, it is amazing to see how much involvement and influence gamers worldwide can have on game development. The overwhelming feedback and fan reaction made us reconsider our opportunities and made us sit down with Saber Interactive, who is the perfect candidate for this ambitious undertaking. It did come up a lot. I remember when that was posted up on Nintendo Japan's website for like the list of releases, it was making the rounds quite a bit on different gaming websites and on YouTube, because a lot of people were wondering, this is really going to work on the Switch? Because remember, the Xbox One and the PS4 base models did have issues with this game. So it was more people curious about it actually running on the Switch. I don't know. I mean, I guess people were like, oh, that would be pretty cool to see on the system as like a handheld game. And yeah, I guess it shows that developers and even publishers do listen, which if that's all it takes, we just need to convince Nintendo Japan to post up Mega Man Legends 3, and then maybe we can make it happen. And before we go to the comment of the day, we're taking the poll that I posted up yesterday, where I asked, what is your letter grade for the Xbox E3 show? 43% of you voted for B, and then we had a split between A and C at 22% and 21%, and then for some reason, 10% of you voted for F. I'm not really sure how you can look at that presentation and give it an F based on the number of reveals they had, the flow of the overall presentation with little to no talking between every game that they showed. To me, it was at least a C or above. I went with a B during the talk I had with MBG and Nate in the video that we posted up after the presentation, and I only had a couple of issues with it. The first one was that we still don't know what Starfield is. They showed a cinematic trailer and then gave us a release date a year and a half from now, but no gameplay or any of that. And then there was no release date for Halo Infinite, which I think is a big mistake, because now there is still doubt around if this game is coming out this year, despite them saying holiday 2021. We get a release date for Starfield a year and a half from now, but they can't give us a release date for Halo Infinite that should be coming out in the next 5 months. It's still going to leave some concerns out there. So here's hoping they're ready to announce a release date for Halo sometime soon. And we'll finish up with the comment of the day, as you're seeing here. This is from the McRib saying, I'm so happy for everyone excited for Elden Ring. Just wish I wasn't a baby rager and could play it. Well, if you're trying to get into some of these Souls-like games, I guess you could kind of start with Jedi Fallen Order. That took a lot of inspiration from the Souls series, and it's not nearly as hard. So that's not a bad one to start with necessarily, but one that I've been enjoying that I went back to is Neo. And they just have the Neo Remastered collection they put out for the PlayStation 5, but it's also available on like the PS4 and PlayStation Network through the PS5. That I feel like is another good one you can kind of get started with and see how you do there. And as you work through that one, you'll kind of be able to transition also over to like Sekiro and then technically like Dark Souls 1 and 2 and 3. And that I think is a good starting point. Something like Fallen Order or Neo, just kind of get used to the whole setup and then move up to some of the harder games. And ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit that like button, it really helps out. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about here today. There's this weird GameStop advertisement. Do you think people are reading too much into new Nintendo Switch, or do you think GameStop accidentally told us that there's a Switch revision coming here pretty soon? Also, what about the Square Enix presentation? Let me know what you thought about that one. And then Game Builder Garage, did you pick it up on Friday? And if so, have you actually built anything really cool with it? Thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.